Welcome back to day 5 of the countdown to Cheltenham. I'll be looking at the Turners Novices Hurdle today. A 2 mile, 5 furlong, grade 1 ran on the second day of the Cheltenham Festival, the first race. Been a bit of a Willie Mullins procession in recent years, the last 5 winners being Ballyburn, Impere Pass, Sir Gerhard, Bob Ollinger and Envoy Alain. The trainers of those horses: Willie Mullins, Henry de Bromhead and Gordon Elliott. The ground tends to be soft, has been soft 6 out of the last 7 years, good to soft the other year. The last 9 horses to have won also won their previous start, and near enough every horse that has won this has been rated in the high 140s or into the 150s, so yeah, need to be classy to win this, of course. 9 out of the last 12 winners of this race have been age 6, and it's gone to a lot of classy horses recently. If you just go down the list, some of those horses became quite good, but probably didn't quite fulfill their potential either. But yeah, lots of odds-on favourites, lots of short price horses, but yeah, usually attracts at least 1 or 2 pretty classy horses. In the last 8 years, no horse has won this dropping in trip from their last run, so I'll be looking at horses that have been running between 2 miles and 2 miles 5 furlongs for their last start. Maybe suggest that it usually goes to a bit of a quicker horse possibly. The odds currently are Final Demand at 2 to 1, the New Lion 3 to 1, Cowabunga 6 to 1, the Yellow Clay non-runner no bet is a similar price. Kopek de Bordes 7 to 1 won't be running, and it's like 16 to 1 bar that. Potter's Charms in there, but he won't be winning. So yeah, it's really between those 4 that I mentioned initially. Starting with Final Demand, there's no doubting he was extremely impressive in his first 2 starts this season over hurdles, first being at Limerick and then most recently at Leopardstown over 2 miles 6 furlongs. The form of that race probably is more Albert Bartlett type horses, so you would imagine he'd be facing some considerably quicker horses in this Turner's field. As I mentioned before, the drop back in trip doesn't particularly make me fancy him. I do think he'll be a cracking stayer in time. I think he's Brown's kind of 3 mile novice chaser next year. Could be possibly the one to kind of take over Galopin's crown in a few years' time, but obviously that's a long way off. But I would see him as a 3 mile horse down the road. Whether he has the pace for this, I'm not too sure. He was very, very impressive at Leopardstown there. Moving on to the New Lion. He's unbeaten in 4 starts so far, 3 over hurdles, so he's got that 1 extra run over hurdles than Final Demand. He's dispatched all of his English contenders, barely coming off the bridle so far in 3 starts. He's been mainly campaigned just at that 2.5 miles, which I think is good. He's shown a lot of pace at Newbury the last twice he's run there. Yeah, he could be very good. JP McManus has snapped him up. He could be that kind of sexy type in this race that it's maybe gone to in years gone by, rather than those kind of real classic staying horses. He got his grade 1 last time being Wendigo. Wendigo recently came out and won. Yeah, the form's not great, but the English hurdlers, especially novice ones, are rarely very good. So he's only done what he's had to so far. And I think with a greater test here, he could just get even better, to be honest. And I think he's slightly underrated in this market, seeing as though he has been the one campaigned over this kind of 2.5 mile trip, as opposed to Final Demand, who is coming back down in trip. I think it will be a very, very good race nonetheless. Well, for me, third in the market would be the Yellow Clay. There's been some rumour that he might be one to kind of take that Albert Bartlett route now that Final Demand has almost been confirmed to go to the Turners. I'm not too sure, because Gordon has repeatedly said that the Turners has been his target. He's only run over 2 mile 4 this season. He did go a little bit further than that on his maiden hurdle debut, but since then he's running 3 graded races, a grade 3, grade 2 and grade 1, won all 3, and they've all been at that 2.5 mile distance. It was quite kind of wet and foggy last time when he did it, but he beat Super Sunday really well by 8 lengths. He'd definitely have a chance here if, you know, the ground did get very bottomless and it became a bit more of a slug. Will he go to the Albert Bartlett? I'm not too sure. I don't think he will. I think he'll come here. I think hopefully they trust that Wingman is good enough when he steps up in trip. Only that couple of furlongs they did from the Dublin Racing Festival, and hopefully they run the yellow clay here, because if we have the New Lion, the yellow clay and Final Demand, 3 horses that between them have like, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10, 11 wins between them, then yeah, it'll be an absolutely brilliant race. Regarding his chances, I do think he'll just be outclassed by the pair of the New Lion and Final Demand, so it wouldn't shock me if they did go for the Albert Bartlett, seeing as there's 2 very, very classy horses already in this Turners. So yeah, I would make the case for him to go here, but wouldn't be one for me in the better market. Finally, another one that's come for a bit of money in recent days for the Willie Mullins yard in this race is Cowabunga. A lot more inexperience, especially at this trip, than the rest of these, having only run over 2 miles so far in 2 starts. But he does have good form behind Cupek de Board. However, Cupek de Board I don't think ran to a very good level that day. Missed a lot of hurdles. Cowabunga, if he was good enough, probably should have been closer than 2 lengths in behind. And then he went and won his maiden hurdle against William Money. That was only by 1.5 lengths. William Money was beaten by work ahead by, you know, 7, 8 lengths. So is he really Grade 1 quality of work ahead, who is definitely Grade 1 quality, beaten by 7 lengths? I mean, RPI I've given 136, which would give him kind of £20 to find with a Final Demand or a New Lion. So yeah, certainly couldn't have Cowabunga in this race for now. That's kind of it really for this race. I think it'll be very much a battle between the top 3 in the market: Final Demand, the New Lion and the Yellow Clay. At these current prices, I do quite like the New Lion. I do have a suspicion he gets a little bit bigger because people kind of back Final Demand, especially if Willie has a good first day. So I'm not too sure when I'm going to pull the trigger on this one. Might be closer to the time. I think people will start to question the English form. 4, 5, 6 to 1 would be smashing about this horse. I think he's got a massive chance. 2 very different types of horses, Final Demand and New Lion. Final Demand would be more sort of my horse to back at Cheltenham, one that stays a little bit more, one that kind of, you know, would get up that Cheltenham hill. However, I just think the New Lion's got bags and bags of ability. The fact that he's barely come off the bridle in a Grade 1 by a horse that's a fair quality, but he just dispatched him like he wasn't even there. So yeah, the New Lion, I think, is going to be the one for me in the Turners. Check back in tomorrow for a preview of the Brown Advisory Chase. Nice one.